Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Beyond the Hashtag episode 10.
You are now locked into the Beyond the Hashtag podcast.
Hashtag BTH Pod.
This is a very special interview episode being done in the Christmas season, so Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone listening. I'm your host, Stephen, and I'm bringing to you today an interview with a family very close to my heart, people that I've known for a very, very long time, and we're just going to have a chat, really, just a chat about the football experience and specifically the Arsenal fan experience that they've had. So I'd like to introduce to you the Livingstones.
Hello.
Hey.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
Merry Christmas. So I'll go on the order that you can see in the video. So I've got on the left Siobhan, and I've got Paul and Rochelle.
Hey.
How you guys doing? How's your Christmas?
It was good.
Yeah, it was good. It was good, different.
COVID Christmas.
Yeah, COVID Christmas. Yeah, literally. Was there still a lot of drinking though? I feel like the same amount of drinking gets
I
done.
like that one. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of continued. Like it's been throughout the year, so it's not really been much difference. But
Yeah, the Livingstones are family who've gone to Arsenal for many, many years, as I'm sure they'll explain later. So yeah, just with what we do on the podcast and the platform, always trying to bring solutions to the issues of racism within the game. And yeah, this is like kind of a real life fan experience. Our episode 5 focused on fans, but now we're going to get sort of a more real life fan experience in a lot more depth than we went to in episode 5. So yeah, without much ado, guys, let's kick into the conversation. Just starting with you guys' experience of attending games in the UK as a black football fan.
I'll start off with what got me into football.
Mhm.
It's basically like most young guys, indifferent to race, just playing with school friends and hearing others chanting names as they played. It just made you want to go and find out for yourself who these players were. Obviously, back in my day, and I'll try not to say that too often, we only had black and white TV, or shades of grey, as I would call it. So when we started in football, there weren't a lot of black players in a league of 22 or so. There were probably 2 or 3 in the whole divisions. So you start off maybe liking a team that you can see yourself in. And as I said, there weren't many. There weren't many back in those days.
Yeah, okay. So and even that stat of, and I'm sure it's not like a hard stat, but it would have been as small as having 2 or 3 black players in the whole league full of 20 plus teams. Every team has 15 to 20 players, and you're thinking in all of that, you do the math, and then there's only 2 or 3 black people. I think this generation to hear something like that is like almost unfathomable especially for the players.
Yeah. Also, the player count wasn't as high. Generally, there were 12 players.
Yeah.
Per team. There were more in the squad, but it was 12. 11 played, and one lucky came on as sub.
Yeah.
The numbers are still high.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, if I'm honest, we supported the team that had a black player.
Mm-hmm.
But then as you get older, you find more of an allegiance to a team or a club.
Mm.
So my allegiances, although 100% Arsenal now, did spread across 2 or 3 teams when I was growing up, and apart from maybe attending Highbury when I was very, very, very small, my first experience with large crowds was at West Ham. I used to taken there with my good friend, and his sister used to take us, and it was wonderful. There were a couple of games, though. I think it was the Man United and Liverpool games, where there was a tension, too small to really realise what that tension was. You think
Mhm.
it's all about the football,
Yeah,
but you grow up to find out that it probably wasn't.
yeah, yeah.
You get whisked away quite quickly near the end of the games,
Right.
and then near the end of every game, basically. We just thought it was to miss the crowds, but as I said, as you get older, you become more aware of your surroundings and probably the danger that you were in that you didn't
Yeah,
realise.
yeah, and we're definitely gonna touch into that. I'll bring Siobhan and Rosh into just their football fan experience, just from an early stage, what started it, and it might have wavered a little bit now, but what got you into it?
Can you go first?
Go on.
Dad is the reason. Yeah. That is the reason. I never really played football, although the one time I did play football, I just want to share that I scored in front of David Beckham.
Oh wow!
So
Was that
when-
his academy or just?
Yeah, we had a school trip to his academy. Yeah, I mean, just we had a school trip to his academy, which was used to be next to what is now the O2, but at the time it was,
Yeah, I remember.
and I played a little bit of football in school. And I pretended that I would just be goalkeeper because I could play netball. I was like, well, I just have to pretend I'm catching the ball. Obviously, that is not how it runs. But I did score a really nice goal in front of him. But in terms of like supporting Arsenal, watching games, going to games, that's all down to Dad and my aunt as well. She used to play football as well as Dad, so we used to go and watch her women's games, and that was quite fun. Me and Shiv used to make up like cheers and things like that. We're all
Little mascots.
But yeah, so we're growing up watching obviously Arsenal, but going to games, whether it was my aunt's games, whether it was just kind of going to watch games at the park. Touching on what Dad said around kind of like being whisked away, and we might touch on it later. I remember a game actually we went to at West Ham. I think your friend was playing. I can't remember what team, and we were in the away end because Dad's friend played for the away team. But it was against Arsenal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We scored. Arsenal scored.
Oh my God, I remember this.
And my cousin, he jumped up and cheered. Forget it. We were really young. We were like, kind of 12. And I remember my uncle literally like yanking him down, like, sit up there. But after that game, I remember like we left a bit early because like we were in, Upton Park, and we had to go home. So I remember those experiences. But then, those, they don't overshadow the whole footballing experience, but they do stick out in your mind even now. Like this is what, over 10, 15 years later, and I vividly remember, like walking really fast and trying to catch up to it's probably the same height I am now. Trying to like walk really fast to catch up with them because we had to go. But yeah, football down to that. Simple.
Yeah, definitely started off with Dad, but unlike Michelle, I actually played football. I was skilled in that set, but it started off. It's kind of changed and developed because when I first started off, I was kind of like one of the only girls that played football on, I think it was Saturday morning in the park. But yeah, as I got older, obviously the guys got older, they got more rough. I was a bit like, I'm okay. So my allegiance of playing kind of ended there. But I've always been like fascinated with football, like watching the game. I feel like the way I got into it most was obviously where the score is and where the teams are, it would only be like an acronym, so like 3 letters, and I'd always try and guess who was playing without So that was kind of my way of like getting into football. And then I learning players and be like, oh, this player, and then yeah, it's kind of built like that. Support wise, yeah, it's always been Arsenal really, but at the start I was kind of just a fan of football. And then it grew into Arsenal, and it's kind of still at Arsenal. Like they're my boys, but
you're emotionally invested. So
yeah. Some might say it could feel like a what's the word? An unhappy marriage or an abusive relationship with Arsenal sometimes.
Definitely,
yeah, we're still loyal.
Yeah, definitely builds character supporting Arsenal.
Yeah. So yeah, just wanted to get more into, let's say, the beyond the hashtag side of things, more about because we obviously touched on our platform, discrimination in football, and especially a hot topic in football at the moment is the issue of racism. So I wanted to get you guys' immediate thoughts on what racism in football specifically kind of means to you and what comes to mind when you think of it. It could be just the issues that you've seen just in your lifetime in the news and things like that, or it could literally be personal experiences and stories to kind of share.
Yeah, I don't have many stories as such, so I think I've been fortunate in that respect not to have experienced racism directly, maybe indirectly. And that's probably having the time to think about the situation after it's occurred. A lot of racism nowadays is so veiled and constructed. It's not as in your face as it was maybe 30, 40 years ago.
Very covert.
And a lot of people are aware that they can't say certain things in public. It doesn't mean that you don't see the thought process go across their faces sometimes when you're within their within their company. I'll just put it that way. Some individuals that I know, I can see them making a concerted effort to change their language and behaviour when they're around me anyway. I don't know what they're like around other people. But I have been in the vicinity. Sadly, it was at Millwall. Not to lace only them with this. It does exist at all clubs.
Yeah.
Then watching two friends, one played for Millwall, one played for Peterborough, and blatantly hearing cries from the crowd of "kill the black bee." And I'm thinking, which one? Because one plays for your club and one plays for the opposition. And you turn and say, "Hey," and you get an explanation for why they use that kind of language. It's not because I'm racist, because he's one of ours and he isn't. And they see no difference in calling one person something if he doesn't work for their club. And it's very hard to try and curb your anger. I'm feeling it a little bit now
already. Yeah.
But you're like, really?
Yeah.
And astonishingly, they just see nothing wrong. We used to, my friends and I, and we're not all black, we come from all different types of backgrounds. We try and understand it, but I don't think there is an understanding of it, really. We would much prefer someone who is racist, in fact we do, that comes straight out and tells you they don't like you for whatever reason, rather than the one that's your mate, but he isn't really your mate kind of thing. We have some struggles that way. But it has changed a lot now. And I think platforms like this and the news are why it's changing, because it's out there more that it's not acceptable and it's not going to be accepted.
Yeah, and I think the ignorant side of things is something that plays a massive part a lot of the time in the covert nature and when people say certain things and they literally don't like realize, like, because it's not the overt nature of specific insults and things like that, so they literally don't realize that, like, the nature of what they're saying. Yeah,
it's learned ignorance as well.
Yeah.
I don't like you. Okay, why? Well, that's what my granddad says. It's what my dad says. It's what, and it's hereditary, unfortunately.
Yeah, massive generational problem. Shiv, I'll go to you. Immediate thoughts when you think about just racism in football, and it could be personal stories or just how you've reacted to anything you've seen in your lifetime or recently.
I don't think I have any personal stories like directed at me. I think maybe when I was younger, I most probably heard it but didn't know what it meant. Yeah, so I most probably have experienced it, but I can't think to a time where I can actually recall it, where it's personally affected me. I wouldn't say this is particularly like absolutely like directly racist, but I remember when it was Arsenal, Tottenham, I think it was Tottenham, and Adebayor, was it Tottenham?
So when he got sent off that game.
Oh, I don't remember exactly.
Playing for Tottenham. Playing for us.
Yeah, who was he playing for?
No.
He was playing for Tottenham, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think, he's playing for Tottenham. I'm sure.
But if you tell the story,
I
I
can't remember exactly, but it was at Arsenal, 100%. And I was with you, and it was just after he had got back. I think it was like during summer, and maybe it was like a African Cup of Nations friendly or something like that.
It's
and then they had that incident where the bus got shot at. And then a lot of fans was, I'm not going to repeat what they were saying, but they're basically saying it should have been. And I was a bit like, wow.
Well, I think for the listeners, they were singing a song that it's shit, because some of the players were injured, and I'm not sure if anyone was killed in the team, but basically we were sick. Was it us or was it at Tottenham? I can't remember. One set of fans were singing "It Should Have Been You," and it's put in the pile of banter. But they are real people as well, and that was nothing to do with football.
Yeah, and suppose if I don't might be an unpopular opinion, but I think if it was someone like, for example, Harry Kane, who was in that situation, there's no way any of those fans would be singing that to him. So I do feel like race definitely played a part in it, but obviously it's not directly like calling someone a black bee or an N-word or saying something discriminatory against their race. But no, I don't think I've experienced anything personally. In regards to like racism today in football, I definitely think it affects me a lot more, only because it's like, obviously I fully understand it, but then you're also looking at that person like that's someone's dad, that's someone's brother, that's someone's uncle, that's someone's son, and it's like, how like you can have your own opinion, you can form your opinion, but how can you as a person feel like it's okay to insult someone because of their race? Like, sorry. I get a bit like, it frustrates me so much. It's just like, who are you? Like, what is your own? Focus on yourself. This person is doing their job, and whether you like it or not, whether you like what they do, what they say, how they act off the field, how they act on the field, that's their role. You should maybe have an opinion on the role that they play, not on the colour of their skin.
And Rosh, similar question to you about just what springs to mind with racism in football, and just any personal stories to share, or just how you view the current status of racism in football, or how it's changed since you were growing up.
I think Dan and Shiv have covered a lot of the points. I think in terms of experiences, I would say it's less. Yeah, it's not, you see, like actually you kind of see things go for people's faces, like, oh, I shouldn't say that, or I can't say that. I think not a really standout moment, but one thing I do remember is when we got tickets for Emirates Cup and we were on club level. And it's kind of like when you're when you say, for example, you're going on a flight, and then you've got the different queues. You've got, the economy queue, the business queue, you've got the first class queue. There's been times I've been in business queue and they're like, but this is business queue only. This is, and that's kind of what it felt like when we were going to club level. It's like, oh, are you in the right place? And it's like,
can I see your ticket?
Can I see a ticket?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what
annoys my soul.
And you kind of want to be like here, but you're just like, just let me get to my seat. So that's probably one of the ones that I remember. I wouldn't say it's like a massive standout, and I haven't directly had any racist comments towards me or experienced that personally at games, but you do see it a lot with obviously the players. And again, it's what you see in the media. You've seen many a time, City fans have been found, doing monkey chants. You saw the black gentleman in Paris that got pushed off the train by a Chelsea fan. It happens, as Dad said, it happens at every club. But what I've linking to what Siobhan said, it only seems to be when it comes to black players or players with black heritage, mixed race players with black heritage that get it the most. So if we take, for example, when, oh gosh, I've even forgotten his name, Pepe got sent off for that stupid challenge. You saw he had to turn his comments off, right? Yes, Xhaka also got a red card. He had to get his comments off, but he wasn't getting racist remarks. You weren't seeing think pieces or long tweets around his heritage and where he comes from or where he should go back to. It tends to be for players of black heritage. Again, the media, I'm not going to name any names, Mr. Tears, also play a massive part in terms of amplifying it, and it goes back to how they know what people will feed into. They know what's clickbait, and whatever's clickbait makes money. That's what it comes down to. It makes money. The article about Marcus Rashford purchasing homes, people are going to click on it, they're going to screenshot it, they're going to retweet, oh my gosh. You're going to have one side which goes, oh my gosh, he's got so many houses, and the other side going, oh my gosh, why would they write such things? They're still going to make money.
Exactly.
So it's sad. I think it's kind of scary how long has kick racism out of football been around and all these initiatives, but who's really measuring them and holding them to account? And I think I remember you saying on a previous episode around, they were doing at one of those kind of charity dinners, they were doing a toast to
25 years.
25 years we've been tackling racism. Like, why are you toasting to that? Like, it's like, I'm showing my life now. It's like Hinge, right? Hinge is an app that's meant to be deleted after you find love, you find partner. It's meant to be deleted. That's exactly how these initiatives should be. It should be a case of, by this point, yes, we're not going to eradicate it from society overall as a whole, but you have one job. Your one role is to eradicate it from the game, from a 90-minute game, from a competitive sport, from this particular league, in this particular country. Who's holding them to account? It's just numbers, it's quotas, it's stats. Oh, we've decreased it by this percentage, or we've done this at this club, but not enough people are being made an example of. If one fan gets a lifetime ban, cool, but it's not as if they say their mate's got a ticket and they're, oh, do you want to come along to the game? They can do that. I don't think it's not like you have
facial recognition.
Facial recognition. Oh, was this the guy that was doing monkey chants at Raheem Sterling? There's a lot of layers. You've got club layers, you've got the leagues, you've got the FA, FIFA, we're going worldwide. There's so many layers to it, but there has to be more severe consequences, criminal consequences.
I'll add to that, to what Rochelle said. I don't know if many of your listeners watched the recent TV program with Rio Ferdinand. Anton.
Yeah.
Anton, yeah.
So I actually watched Match of the Day that night. Let's take myself back. And I saw what I thought I saw what I saw.
Yeah.
So,
what we all saw.
So I rewound it, and I'm like, that's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
And I was more angered that the show didn't touch on it at all.
Yeah.
And I deleted it by then. And then the next day, all of this blew up, and they blurred out his mouth.
Yeah.
And again, I got a little bit angry. I was like, why are they blurring out his mouth, saying that he didn't say something? Surely, freedom of speech and everything.
Yeah.
You would let everyone make up their own mind. But in that program, I didn't play with Troy Townsend, but we're from the same era. So our experiences of playing are quite different to what I described earlier on.
Yeah.
And he mentioned that he probably wasn't allowed as the head of Kick It Out to do more than he actually did. Now he works for that group, and I understand exactly what he said and why he said it.
Yeah.
And probably more importantly, why he had to say it that way.
Yeah.
They came out later on and said they don't hold any what's the phrase? Yeah, they don't have any restrictions on
on challenging and
his work. But if those restrictions and apprehensions weren't there, Troy wouldn't have had to say what he said the way he said it.
Yeah.
So again, it comes back to it's there, and it's very constructive the way that it's used, especially high up in places that are supposed to be helping.
And we did we did a whole episode sort of analyzing that documentary. No, it's all good because we literally spoke about similar issues, even with the Troy thing, with like the fact that they claimed so the FA responded to him to say that we don't hold that there's no restrictions on sort of criticizing and challenging blah blah blah, but then they didn't release any policies that sort of backed up their statements of they say that our policies like don't restrict, like, let's say the head of Kick It Out to speak out against us, but then you're not giving us the policy that supposedly that you're saying that says that. So it's kind of like things don't really add up, and there's no smoke without fire. Troy wouldn't just just come out of that from nowhere if he didn't feel that. And I think from someone in his position to make such a claim like that, I think it's very worrying for that fight that they're trying to do, but then also not surprising at the same time, because that's why there hasn't been the kind of development of the issue and an organization like Kick It Out that we've seen. Because if the head of Kick It Out is saying that he basically his hands are tied and he can't really do much to help one of the most high profile racist incidents, then what hope has, let's say, the rest of the league and the PFA association got to deal with it?
Absolutely. And if you look at the history of Kick It Out, they've done a fantastic job of raising awareness. But effectively, that seems to be all that he can do.
Yeah.
So I can raise it that you said this, you did that. What's the punishment for that?
Yeah.
There hasn't been any to name.
Yeah, and that's where holding into account comes into it for Kick It Out themselves, but then also higher above them, because they're essentially funded by the FA, PFA, Premier League, etc. So those are the organisations that have to be held to account for. If Kick It Out present them with a policy or something, that they have to be able to enforce it and bring the stats to kind of bring it up later. So yeah, that's holding to account is one thing that we really want to try and push for, especially on this platform, in terms of you said this in June 2020 about your anti-racism policy. So we're in June 2021. What's been the progress? what are you trying to achieve in the next years, etc. You know, that's the gap that we have to kind of bridge. Otherwise, it's just lip service at the end of the day.
Hashtag BTH Pod.